This is Operation Save Cody Garbrandt's career. As I'm sure most of you are aware right now, Cody Garbrandt's career is in jeopardy. It's going down the drain. He tried to move down into the flyweight division and it completely backfired. He got KO'd brutally in the first round by Kai Kara-France, and now he doesn't have a ranking spot in bantamweight or flyweight. He has no ranking in the UFC whatsoever, and if they haven't cut him already, he will be cut if he loses his next fight. So Cody Garbrandt is in a desperate situation. He needs to win if he wants to keep his career in the UFC. So if you're Cody Garbrandt's manager, hello, please pay attention to this video. I've narrowed it down into 3 career pathways for Cody Garbrandt's redemption tour. Over here we got the safety option. This is how you are basically going to guarantee Cody Garbrandt at least wins one more fight in his career and then slowly builds his way back up to the top of maybe the bantamweight division. I don't think he belongs at flyweight. Just a spoiler here, there's going to be no flyweight bouts on this video. They're all going to be bantamweight bouts. I feel like that is his division. His chin's a bit better at bantamweight. Of course, now that he's been KO'd at flyweight, it might be a bit of a problem, but still, I think we're going to keep it at bantamweight. So, over here, the safety option, safest possible way to get Cody Garbrandt back into the big fights in his career. Down here we got the fast track option. This is very, very risky, but it's against some really big names and he could immediately propel himself back into the mix in only a couple of fights, get right back to the top of the bantamweight division. And over here we got the legacy route, which is also quite safe, but it's also a part of building his name against big opponents that he hasn't taken on yet, and also maybe redeeming a couple of losses along the way as well. Let's start straight away with a safety route, which is the most logical way of doing things. So if you are Cody Garbrandt's manager, this is what you should do immediately, okay? Cody Garbrandt in the safety lane, his first fight that he should take next in his career, and I'm not even joking about this because it genuinely makes a little bit of sense. This guy's ranked number 26 in the bantamweight division. He isn't even ranked that low. Rani Yahya. Now, Rani Yahya, his normal face looks like a man who's about to lose a fight. Okay? So I feel like Cody Garbrandt, forget the ego, forget people saying you're about to crush a can. Rani Yahya's on a win streak right now, and he's arguably earned a fight against a ranked opponent. Not making this up, Rani Yahya is actually on a win streak right now. Okay? So please, strike while you can and take on Rani Yahya. Forget the ego. Forget people calling you a can crusher. That doesn't matter. I saw the video of your son. It's very heartbreaking, okay? We don't need you to lose again. We need you to keep providing for your family. Fight Rani Yahya next. You will KO him in the first round. If you don't, you fucking deserve poverty. Okay, that's just the honest truth of it all. And you can go fight Kevin Lee up a weight class at Triad Combat for all I care. Take on Rani Yahya next. He's a grappler. You will not be out-grappled. I've never seen a person effectively out-grapple Cody Garbrandt in his entire career. He's got phenomenal wrestling, phenomenal takedown defense. So Cody Garbrandt, put your ego aside, call out Rani Yahya, and you know what? This is the best part about this matchup. Rani Yahya will actually beg for this fight. A huge name for Rani Yahya. He probably was worried he'd get given like a Montel Jackson or a Nathaniel Wood or another guy outside the rankings that's probably going to beat him. Maybe a Davey Grant, which is also a bad matchup for him. Or even like an Adrian Yanez, just to pad Adrian Yanez's record a little bit more. Rani Yahya, if he is offered a bout against Cody Garbrandt, will jump at the opportunity. And you can also put this at a decently good spot on a card as well, because Rani Yahya, I believe in his last fight, was either the co-main or feature fight of a fight night card. So in the co-main event of a fight night, Cody Garbrandt's comeback against Rani Yahya, and this will guarantee a free win for Cody Garbrandt. Listen, you're going to say, why are you matching him up against Rani Yahya? He's not ranked. He has no ranking right now. He's as good as Rani Yahya. Put him against Rani Yahya. Please, management team of Cody Garbrandt, reach out to Rani Yahya and say, hey, want a big fight in a big spot on a card against a big name, the biggest name of your career? Yes, you fucking do. Make that match up, and if he wins that one, he can move on and take on another guy in the safety lane, which is Frankie Edgar. He is the answer to all the problems of Cody Garbrandt's career. Pun fully intended. I believe that Cody Garbrandt would beat Frankie Edgar. Wrestlers, Garbrandt should, like, change his career trajectory to a wrestler, Hunter. They haven't got good stand-up. They haven't got the most debilitating power in the world that's going to put you out cold. Build up to bantamweight. Bulk yourself up a little bit. I know you train with Mark Henry and so does Frankie Edgar. Do I give a fuck? Does your son give a fuck? Okay, he wants Christmas presents next year. If you lose your job, he might not be getting those Christmas presents. So, respectfully, fuck your friendships. Fuck your teammates. Fight Frankie Edgar. Loser goes home matchup. Beat Rani Yahya in March or April of next year. Maybe take a little bit more time off around the April area of next year maybe. Enjoy Christmas. Take a month off in the new year. Get back to training. Get back in there in April and take on Rani Yahya. And look to stay active on International Fight Week against a guy like Frankie Edgar on the main card opener of a pay-per-view card. Perfect matchup for Cody Garbrandt against Frankie Edgar. Even fight Rani Yahya as the headliner of the prelims of a pay-per-view card. That could also happen. But either way, I think Frankie Edgar's a great matchup for Cody Garbrandt. He's a bit chinny. He's just suffered another really bad KO loss to Oliveira. And I feel like Cody Garbrandt really could beat Frankie Edgar. He could stuff the takedowns, land the big shots. Now, of course, as I pick my nose off camera, Frankie Edgar would have a chance of beating Cody Garbrandt. But at this point in his career, I really don't like those odds because he has been KO'd again by Marlon Vera and he continually gets KO'd in brutal fashion recently. So I feel like if Garbrandt gets his confidence back against Rani Yahya, he could steam through Frankie Edgar and maybe get a KO win. Of course, this is still risky because we don't know how good Garbrandt is because his technique is fucking appalling. But that's the matchup I want to see next if he does beat Yahya. And if he gets past Frankie Edgar, he ends his journey with a rematch against Rob Font. Now, I know what you're going to say. The safety option, Rob Font destroyed him over 5 rounds. I understand. By this time, Rob Font will be another year older. Could be 36 years of age, by the way. Maybe 35 years of age. He's just taken a lot of damage against Jose Aldo. Concussed multiple times. Arguably, you could say his chin has been weakened. Cody Garbrandt took the shots from Rob Font for 5 rounds. He saw them coming. They weren't crazy fast to him. They weren't crazy powerful to him. He knows that he can take the power of Rob Font. Moving in after a big win over Rani Yahya to put you at number 14 or 15 in the bantamweight rankings. Then a win over Frankie Edgar to put you in number 10 or 11 or maybe even number 9 in the bantamweight rankings. Could land you a rematch against Rob Font, who's maybe bounced back with one big win in the bantamweight division and is looking for a fight at the end of next year. And you could maybe win your rematch against Rob Font because, again, Rob Font's taken some damage. Maybe his chin has been loosened a little bit. And if you can land those shots that you landed in the first round in the first fight, because arguably, compared to how he looked against Kai Kara France, Garbrandt looked really good against Rob Font. So, land those shots you did in the first round, mix in your grappling a little bit more, and maybe this time you could just have that edge in power to land on Rob Font well. And of course, you're improving during this time as well. You're the younger fighter as well. So you're going to have an improvement advantage over Rob Font if you actually do improve and don't keep your hands by your fucking waist like a clown. So, fight Rob Font at the end of this safety pathway. Get your rematch. And if you win that one, you're looking at title elimination bouts in the bantamweight division. Garbrandt's back, and there's a potential that this could occur if he does make the improvements necessary between the Yahya fight and the Edgar fight and finishes with Rob Font. Moving on to the fast track option, which is big name straight away. Ranked name in the bantamweight division, just got made number 13. It's Sugar Sean O'Malley immediately. Now again, Cody Garbrandt versus Sean O'Malley doesn't really make sense. But a lot of Sean O'Malley's matchups don't make the most of sense. Now, if Sean O'Malley understands that Garbrandt is interested in fighting him, I believe O'Malley would destroy Garbrandt. So I'm sure that O'Malley believes he will destroy Garbrandt as well. So make that matchup, if they want, in the fast track lane. Because if you beat Sean O'Malley, fair play, it's a big risk. You're right back in the mix in the bantamweight division. Number 9 or 8 at bantamweight. Right back up the rankings. Beating a big name in Sean O'Malley. Took all of his hype. Everyone's back on the bandwagon of Cody Garbrandt. He's back. He beat Sean O'Malley. He's in the mix again. He's got all of the star power that Sean O'Malley had. He's going to go forward. Everyone's going to be back on your team if you KO Sean O'Malley. So, make the most out of the beef that you had. and make the matchup next, because again, I'm sure Sean O'Malley would see that as a very winnable matchup, and he would like his chances against you, so he might take that one to improve his pay before he takes on the top names in the bantamweight division. Cody Garbrandt could look at that matchup next. I don't think he'd win it, but maybe he's dumb enough to do it, and it could just pay off big time for him. I wouldn't recommend this pathway though. Moving on, if he does beat Sean O'Malley, and again, I don't recommend this, Corey Sandhagen. Really tough matchups for Cody Garbrandt in the fast-track lane. Really bad matchups. Basically like a better version of O'Malley, at least as far as we know in terms of their performances. We obviously don't know where O'Malley's going to go with his career, but still, he could maybe have a chance, after Sandhagen's taken a lot of damage in his last 2 fights, of maybe catching Corey Sandhagen. I'm not going to stick on this one for too long because it's a bit of a dumb idea, but if he beats Sean O'Malley in April, which could happen, who knows? O'Malley gets reckless, looks for a finish on a rocked Garbrandt. Garbrandt lands a big right hand, flatline KOs O'Malley, moves on to fight Sandhagen. You could find yourself in a title elimination bout, or even maybe a title shot under certain circumstances in the bantamweight division after 2 good wins. We'll see how it goes down. Moving on to the legacy route. This is the one that I feel like he will probably take next. You start your legacy pathway with Frankie Edgar. Immediately. Forget the Rani Yahya warm-up fight in the meantime, which could obviously be done, and maybe you should go that route anyway. The safety route's the best way to go. But look for the matchup against Frankie Edgar. Perfect matchup for you. A wrestler who's just been chinned badly like you have. Bad. Multiple times in a row as well. Maybe his career's coming to an end. Fuck your friendships. Fuck your teammates. I don't give a fuck whatsoever if he trains with Mark Henry. It's one of you or none of you. Loser goes home, winner stays on, and stays ranked in the bantamweight division. Cody Garbrandt, Frankie Edgar. It's a perfect matchup in my opinion. And also, they might not make the Rani Yahya matchup because they'll be like, we don't want to pay Cody Garbrandt a shit ton of money that we're paying him to take on a no-name like Rani Yahya, who's not going to bring that much hype to the matchup. We want to put him against a name that's actually going to be a big fight so we can justify paying him the amount that we pay him on his contract. So, Edgar first. Get that one out the way. You could possibly win it. I don't see Edgar out grappling him. And maybe you could KO Edgar on the feet because Edgar's a smaller guy. Not as much reach. Garbrandt could land that big shot like he did on a Sun Sal. In fact, Edgar's quite similar to a Sun Sal, but a little bit more volume heavy. Maybe Garbrandt would have more opportunities to catch him. And if he does beat Edgar in his first fight next in the legacy pathway, he moves on and he takes on Dominick Cruz in a rematch, because I do believe that Dominick Cruz is going to take on Corey Sandhagen next, and I think he's going to lose that one. Even though he's looked good against Pedro Munoz and recent opponents, I think this is where it ends for Dominick Cruz. I've picked him so far against Casey Kenny and Pedro Munoz. I'm not going to pick him again against these top-ranked guys. Maybe in a certain matchup I could, but I don't know. I don't think he's going to get too much higher. So if Dominick Cruz loses to a Corey Sandhagen, decides he's not done, still wants to compete and still feels like he's got it in the tank, maybe he goes into a Sandhagen fight injured as a premeditated excuse, and now in his mind, if he's not injured, he could actually be something in the bantamweight division and take the belt again. If he loses to Sandhagen and Garbrandt beats Frankie Edgar and Cruz is ranked number 8 and Garbrandt's ranked number 10, the rematch sells itself. One guy rebounding, the other guy looking to rebound in the first place once again. A rematch a few years in the making now. I believe it was in 2015 or 16 or something like that. 2017, 16. Very long time ago. So there's a lot of space removed between the pair of them whenever they've had that first fight. So the rematch makes sense. They could make that fight happen in the main event of a fight night, in the feature fight of a pay-per-view card. That will be a perfect fight to take place next. And also in terms of legacy, Cody Garbrandt could beat Frankie Edgar, a huge big name in the fight world, and then look to redeem his loss against Dominick Cruz and earn that belt earn that sort of. Well, he didn't lose to Dominick Cruz, but he could go out there against Dominick Cruz, a huge name, and beat him again. And for Dominick Cruz, I mean to say, he would maybe look at the idea of this matchup and think, you know what, before I go, I'd like to right that wrong against Cody Garbrandt. And that's why I think Cruz could take the matchup. I know I just said that Garbrandt could redeem his loss. I meant that Dominick Cruz would like the idea of this because Garbrandt holds that win against him, even though Garbrandt would be lower down the rankings than Dominick Cruz at the time. That's what would open Dominick Cruz's idea to getting that fight for himself and looking to redeem his loss against Cody Garbrandt. But that's a perfect matchup. Plus, Garbrandt is going to be confident going in. He beat Cruz the first time. He's the younger guy. Logic says that, Garbrandt would win that matchup again? I don't think he would, but logic also says that you should keep your fucking hands up if you're rocked all over the place against Kai Kara-France, but he still kept him by his fucking waist. So logic don't really work with Garbrandt, but if he beats Dominick Cruz after Frankie Edgar, he moves on to the final step of the legacy pathway and takes on TJ Dillashaw. I know what you're going to say. Stupid idea, really stupid idea. He's already lost twice. I completely understand. But he lost twice with a storyline. And he held that storyline the whole time. TJ beat me because he was on EPO. He's a roid shit. If he's clean, I beat him. If Cody Garbrandt can beat Frankie Edgar, put himself at number 10 in the bantamweight rankings, beat Dominick Cruz, who's say ranked 6 or 7 at the time, and move himself up to number 6, and TJ Dillashaw is at number 2 or 3, coming off a loss to maybe his next fight, who knows, against Jose Aldo. He loses that one maybe. He might even lose to a guy like Dominick Cruz, who knows, I don't think he would, but let's say he loses to Jose Aldo next in his career and falls down the rankings to number 2 or 3. You know the UFC will pounce on the idea of making that trilogy. If Garbrandt has shown that he can beat 2 good guys and reinvent himself in the bantamweight division, the Dillashaw matchup could make sense in a trilogy. Of course, the trilogy doesn't really make sense, I understand, but if there's ever going to be a trilogy where a guy lost the first 2 fights in a non-title fight scenario, I reckon the Garbrandt-Dillashaw trilogy is worth it, especially if there's like an Ultimate Fighter season coming up soon. Plus, in terms of legacy, clearing that loss off of his record against TJ Dillashaw, or clearing the 2 losses off of his record, and claiming that I beat TJ now because TJ's no longer on EPO, and now that he's not on EPO, I can beat him. The only time he beat me was when he was on EPO, would perfect his legacy quite well, and that would be a great 3-fight haul to get on your resume moving forward in the bantamweight division, and also would earn you a title shot immediately. So, that's what you should do, Cody Garbrandt. So, get off your fucking... I don't even know what to say about him. Get off your hands, you know what I mean? Stop sitting on him. Stop dwelling in your fucking emotions. Get your mind straight and get back in there because, of course, no one wants to see a guy just before their prime get their complete career Kevin Lead by the fucking UFC. So, take these matchups. And if I was the manager of Cody Garbrandt, just going to say it, look at his face. That's it. That's his normal resting face. Okay? Like, he looks like the forgotten Chimaev brother. Like, look at his face. He looks like a man who has already lost a fight before he's even started it. So take the Yaya matchup if you know what's good for you and work your way through this slowly and we'll see what happens. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Click that button up there. Toodle pip. I'll see you later. Goodbye. Team Garbrandt. Let's go. Comeback season is upon us. Toodle pip.